Welcome to the deep dive. So, let's set the scene. Imagine a quiet morning, you're in a rural charity shop. This one's in Fraser Park, California.
Okay.
And the author, Jaime Hoerricks, describes it as pretty politically charged, red to the bone, Meg J flags, that kind of thing.
Right. Quite specific imagery there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this, seemingly mundane setting, it actually becomes the launch pad for this really deep look into memory, meaning, and our connection with objects.
Yeah.
Specifically plush toys.
Plushies, yeah. It's amazing how much meaning we can pack into them.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that kind of kicks it all off involves a family coming in to donate stuff, boxes full of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's the boy with them, and he's described as quiet, maybe a bit tense.
Okay.
And his parents are explaining, he's getting older now. It's time to clean out the clutter. Standard stuff, you might think.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Decluttering, moving on.
But the author watching this, she doesn't see it as a blessing. It hits her more like abandonment.
Wow, that's a strong word. Abandonment. It really shifts the perspective, doesn't it, from just tidying up to something much heavier emotionally.
Definitely.
She seems to pick up immediately on this hidden current. It's not just about the physical stuff.
Not at all. It's like seeing that societal nudge.
Yeah.
Pushing kids to shed that softer side maybe too soon. The author calls it a push towards a blunter candor.
That's quite a phrase, blunter candor, instead of maybe imaginative softness.
Exactly. And that emotional weight is just hanging there.
Yeah.
But then what happens next really takes this somewhere fascinating.
Okay.
So the family leaves, and later, the author's daughter, who is autistic, finds something kind of tucked away among the donations.
Nah, right.
She holds up this plushie. It's round blue, got a soft yellow beak, and bunny ears.
Huh. A bird with bunny ears.
Yeah, the author says it's like it's cosplaying as a bunny.
Yeah, okay.
And her daughter, with this really quiet intuition, just looks at her and says, I think this one's for you. And the author feels it instantly. Like the weight, the resonance, the story stitched into silence. It wasn't just stuffing in fabric.
No, it sounds like it was more than that. A presence, she calls it.
Yeah, a presence, a remnant of something unfinished. It immediately connects back to that boy, his sort of unspoken grief.
Mm-hmm.
So she pays what she calls a small but symbolic ransom and takes it home.
That image, the ransom, it really highlights the value she placed on it. Even then, it wasn't just a purchase.
Exactly.
And this connects so well to the core idea from Hoerricks' work, right? This idea of objects, especially plushies, acting as, what's the term used? Vessels of presencing.
Yes, that's it.
Basically, they're not just things. They hold memories, feelings. They allow those feelings to stay present.
Mm-hmm.
And the source mentions this might be particularly true for people who process things more holistically, in big pictures, sometimes called gestalt processing.
Right. Less piece by piece, more the whole feeling at once.
Exactly. So for them, these aren't just toys. They're like emotional hard drives. Or as the piece puts it, nodes of felt meaning. They can hold on to feelings, even sounds or rhythms, sometimes better than words can.
That makes so much sense. This little blue bird bunny thing, bought for that symbolic ransom, it becomes the perfect entry point for our deep dive today.
Yeah.
It lets us talk about these huge themes. The pressure society puts on us to grow up, this kind of surprising idea of the consciousness of matter, and really what it means to hold on to the things that soften us, the things that remember for us.
And we're pulling all this directly from Hoerricks' writing, turning her personal story into something, well, pretty universal, I think.
Absolutely. So let's dig into that growing up pressure a bit more.
Okay.
The sources really challenge this dominant idea that putting away childish things like plushies or even imaginary friends is just necessary, part of maturing.
Right. It's often framed positively, isn't it? A cleansing, a lesson in letting go. But the author pushes back. She finds that framing hollow, not holy.
That's a strong contrast. Hollow, not holy. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is this pressure really about the child's development?
Well, there's something else going on.
Yeah. Is it maybe less about the kid being ready and more about, I don't know, adult discomfort?
That's what the source seems to suggest. This desire for order instead of chaos, obedience instead of attachment.
Linear progression instead of cyclical return, yeah.
And things we might see as normal developmental needs, like a child needing repetition or wanting a quiet companion, they get misread, seen as progression or even weakness.
That's a really critical point because society often labels holding on to these things into adulthood as, Peter Pan syndrome.
Right, like you're refusing to face reality, refusing to grow up. It's almost an accusation of immaturity, which leads Hoerricks to ask this really provocative question: what if, growing up, at least in the way our culture pushes it, what if that's the tragedy?
Oh, okay. Unpack that a little.
Yeah.
Growing up itself is the tragedy.
Well, the idea is that becoming an adult means you have to shed your imagination, your sense of whimsy, like the kind that lets you see a room full of squishlets as animated. If it means cutting off those gentle attachments that keep you connected to feeling.
Then maybe that's not maturity at all.
Yeah.
As the author says, I will not call that maturity.
Exactly. The argument is that softness isn't something we just naturally outgrow. It's something we're trained to hide.
Trained out of us almost.
Yeah. And the source really emphasizes that in that training, we lose something vital. We're encouraged to discard gentleness, imagination, that sense of kinship with things that don't speak our language.
It seems like it pushes us towards a very specific way of thinking logical, classifying everything.
And maybe losing touch with the relational side of things, the connections, the feeling of presence.
Right. Which connects to another really interesting concept from the source, autistic temporality.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that.
Well, the idea is that time isn't always experienced as a straight line, A to B, milestone after milestone.
Which is how society often frames it, right?
Yeah.
Deadlines, stages, moving forward constantly.
Exactly. But this concept suggests time can also run in spirals, loops, returns. There's lingering, revisiting. It's not always about forward motion.
So from that perspective, maybe not all goodbyes are necessary. Maybe presence doesn't always demand moving on.
Precisely. It allows for a different kind of relationship with time and memory.
That's a powerful reframe. And it connects, interestingly, to this almost philosophical idea mentioned, drawing on Iain McGilchrist.
Oh, right. About matter itself.
Yeah. The provocative thought that matter isn't just inert stuff, it's maybe consciousness slowed down.
Consciousness slowed down. Okay, that's a big idea.
It is. But if you follow that thought, objects, especially ones we pour meaning into, aren't just passive. They can actively hold our experiences, our feelings. They can, in a way, remember for us.
So like the plushie becomes a vessel.
A vessel, exactly. Vessels for connection, for safety, for memory that does not disappear just because we're no longer young. The source calls them sacred matter. Holding on to a moment, maybe a grief or an attachment that wasn't allowed space otherwise.
Wow. Sacred matter.
Mm-hmm.
So for the author, keeping that blue bird bunny,
Yeah.
it's not about being stuck.
Not at all. It sounds like these companions are seen as witnesses to growth, not barriers against it. They've been there through tough times, migrations, heartbreaks. They hold those memories.
Right.
And the source suggests, really profoundly, I think, that for some people, they live more fully in the keeping than in the moving on.
In the keeping. That's beautiful. It's like a quiet defiance, isn't it?
A soft defiance, yeah, to keep what softens you, to rescue the things that remember.
So as we wrap up, maybe the question for you listening is this. What are those soft things, those memories, those attachments that maybe you've been encouraged, subtly or not so subtly, to outgrow or hide away?
What would it actually mean for you to embrace what softens you? To, as the author puts it, rescue what remembers?
And maybe, just maybe, to grow not away from these things, but with them. Something to think about.